There's a kind of silence that only a woman who sleeps alone knows. It's the quiet that fills the room after the lights go off, when there's no one beside her to say good night, no heartbeat echoing next to hers, no warmth to hold on to. For some women, that silence feels like peace, but for many, it feels like an unanswered question. Why me? When will it be my turn? Has God forgotten me? But what if I told you that the woman who sleeps alone is not forgotten, not abandoned, not overlooked, but chosen? What if the bed that feels empty tonight is actually the sacred ground where God is building something powerful, something unshakable within her? A woman who sleeps alone is not forgotten, not rejected, and not left behind. She is being prepared in the quiet places of her life. Many times, when she looks around, she sees others moving forward, marriages, engagements, families, and wonders why her story hasn't unfolded the same way. But what she doesn't see is what heaven is doing behind the silence. God is not delaying, He is developing. The time that feels like emptiness is actually divine preparation. When God prepares someone for purpose, He often does it away from the noise, away from the crowd, away from distractions. The woman who sleeps alone is being trained in the unseen, strengthened in secret, and built in places no one can witness. Her singleness is not rejection, it's refinement. Every lonely night is shaping her character, building her resilience, and drawing her closer to her Creator. God is not withholding love from her. He is teaching her what love truly is. Because before He can trust her with partnership, He must teach her partnership with Him. In her stillness, she learns the rhythm of His voice. In her solitude, she discovers how to depend not on emotion but on faith. She learns to rest in God, to find peace not in presence but in purpose. This kind of preparation cannot be rushed. God knows the exact moment when she will be ready to carry what He's preparing to give. Many women mistake this season as punishment, but it's actually protection. God sees the things she cannot see. He knows the paths that would break her spirit and the people that would distract her destiny. So He separates her not to isolate her, but to insulate her, to keep her safe while He works. Every unanswered prayer is His way of saying, I'm not done yet. Every closed door is a redirection, not rejection. Every delay carries divine intention, because when God withholds something, He's never taking. He's trading temporary comfort for eternal calling. In her solitude, she begins to discover parts of herself that were hidden beneath expectations. She starts to see her strength, her creativity, her inner voice. She learns to build without needing applause, to dream without seeking permission, to walk with confidence born from conviction. She learns to love her own company because she realizes that the presence of God fills every empty space. That's when the shift happens. The woman who once cried because she was alone starts to smile because she understands she was never truly alone. Preparation seasons are not glamorous, but they are glorious in purpose. God refines in private what He plans to reveal in public. He teaches her patience because the kind of love He's preparing her for requires maturity. He teaches her peace because a home can't be built by someone still fighting their own chaos. He teaches her identity because she must know who she is before anyone else calls her theirs. He teaches her discernment because not everyone who comes with good words carries good intentions. And while she may not see it now, every night spent sleeping alone is heaven's way of building a foundation that no relationship can shake. She's being prepared for something sacred, a love that won't complete her but will complement her, a relationship that won't distract her from God but will draw her deeper into Him. One day, when she looks back, she will see the fingerprints of God all over this season. She will realize that every moment of solitude was a step towards something greater, something divine. Singleness was never her rejection, it was her preparation. God was never saying no. He was simply saying, not yet. I'm still preparing my daughter for what she deserves. Before God allows a woman to share her life with someone else, He takes her through a season where she learns how to stand on her own. It's not loneliness, it's divine training. In that quiet season, she learns to find joy without depending on others to provide it. She learns to rest without waiting for validation. She learns to wake up each morning and feel complete, not because someone loves her, but because she has found love in the presence of God. This is the foundation of wholeness, and it is something no relationship can ever replace. God is not keeping her alone to punish her, but to protect the purity of what he's building inside her. Before he connects her heart to another, he wants to ensure her heart is anchored in him. When a woman sleeps alone and begins to grow in wholeness, something powerful happens. She becomes free. She no longer measures her worth by who stays or who leaves. She doesn't need to prove her value through affection or attention. She learns that being alone doesn't mean being incomplete. It means being available for God to work deeply. Many women wait for love thinking someone will fill the empty spaces inside them. But true love doesn't fill you. It finds you already full. That's why God takes time to teach her how to rest in him first. He wants her to know the kind of peace that no person can give and no circumstance can take away. It's in that stillness that she begins to recognize God's voice more clearly. When the distractions are gone and the room grows quiet, she starts to feel the rhythm of his guidance in her spirit. She begins to see that everything she needs, strength, purpose, direction, has always been within her because he has been within her. She no longer prays from a place of desperation, but from a place of trust. She no longer begs God to bring someone into her life. She thanks him for being enough until he does. That shift in her spirit changes everything. The woman who once feared being alone now treasures it because she knows that her solitude is where she meets the deepest parts of herself and of God. God is not interested in giving her someone just to fill space. He wants to give her a partnership that aligns with her purpose. But that kind of connection requires two whole people, not two halves trying to fix each other. So he makes sure she knows who she is before anyone else defines her. He teaches her that her beauty isn't in being chosen, it's in being secure. He builds her confidence not on compliments, but on calling. And he refines her character so that when love does arrive, she can handle it with grace, patience, and wisdom. Wholeness is not found when someone finally loves you. It's found when you finally love the person God made you to be. The woman who learns to rest in God no longer needs to chase affection because she walks in assurance. Her faith becomes her foundation, and her peace becomes her power. She no longer lives for attention. She lives with intention. That's when she becomes unstoppable. She's not looking for someone to complete her story. She's writing her story with God. And when the right person comes, they won't rescue her. They'll recognize her. So when a woman sleeps alone, she's not being deprived, she's being developed. God is shaping her heart to be strong, her mind to be clear, and her spirit to be still. He's teaching her how to stand in his presence so that when she stands beside someone one day, she does so as a whole woman, confident, grounded, and complete. Wholeness in God is not the absence of love, it's the presence of peace that prepares her for it. Every night that a woman sleeps alone and chooses to trust God's timing, she is not wasting time, she is worshiping. The world measures progress by movement, by visible change, by what can be seen. But heaven measures faith by stillness, by trust, by the willingness to wait when everything in you wants to rush. The woman who waits faithfully is not idle. She is in one of the deepest forms of spiritual obedience. Her quiet patience is a song that heaven hears. Every time she lays her head down and whispers, God, I still trust you. Even when nothing around her has changed, that is worship. Every tear that falls on her pillow becomes a prayer that touches heaven. Every night she refuses to settle for less than what God has promised. She is declaring that his plan is greater than her pain. Waiting is one of the hardest tests of faith because it goes against everything human nature desires. We live in a world that moves fast, that praises instant results, that tells us we're behind if we don't have what others do. But God is not rushed by comparison or pressure. He moves according to purpose, not popularity. When a woman understands this truth, she begins to see her waiting season differently. What others call delay, she recognizes as divine timing. What others see as loneliness, she calls preparation. She begins to live with quiet confidence, knowing that God's silence is not his absence, it's his strategy. There's a power in the kind of waiting that is filled with faith. It changes a woman from the inside out. It teaches her endurance. It strengthens her discernment. It builds her prayer life. In waiting, she learns to talk to God, not just about what she wants, but about who she's becoming. She learns to bring her heart to him, not to complain, but to be refined. She learns that what God does in her while she's waiting is often more important than what she's waiting for. She may not realize it, but her spirit is being matured. Her vision is being shaped, and her foundation is being solidified for what's coming. When she learns to see waiting as worship, her whole perspective shifts. She stops counting days and starts collecting lessons. She stops wondering when and starts trusting why. She realizes that faith is not proven by how fast God answers, but by how long she can believe even when He doesn't. But her faith becomes steady, not because life is easy, but because she has chosen to anchor her heart in the promises of a faithful God. That is the kind of faith that moves heaven. That is the kind of faith that God rewards. When the time finally comes and the waiting ends, she will understand why it had to take time. She will see how God was aligning things behind the scenes, protecting her from people who looked right but weren't ready, and keeping her from paths that would have led to heartbreak. She'll look back and realize that her waiting was never wasted. It was woven into the perfect timing of God. She'll understand that every moment of loneliness was really an act of divine love, shielding her until the season of fulfillment. So if she's still waiting tonight, she can rest knowing that her patience is not in vain. Her waiting is her worship, and her worship is working. Heaven is listening even when the room feels quiet. God is not late. He's precise. And one day when she steps into what she's been praying for, she'll know it didn't come because she trusted, but because she trusted. Her waiting was never wasted. It was her altar of worship, and God always honors the woman who chooses faith over frustration. When God sets a woman apart, He doesn't always do it in the open. Often, He anoints her in private in moments no one else sees. The woman who sleeps alone and wonders why her story seems hidden from the world doesn't realize that God is performing one of His greatest works behind the curtain of her life. Just like David was anointed while tending sheep away from the eyes of men, God is quietly pouring oil over her purpose while the world is distracted by appearances. What looks like a lonely season is actually an anointing season. God is shaping her in silence so He can reveal her in strength. There's something powerful about being developed in the dark. The woman who learns to trust God in her solitude becomes unshakable when the spotlight comes. She knows that the oil on her life wasn't poured out through applause or approval. It was poured out through tears, faith, and endurance. Every night she spends alone, every prayer whispered in the quiet, every tear shed in confusion is part of the refining process. God is preparing her for a calling that will require maturity, not emotion. He's teaching her to stand when others would crumble, to lead when others would follow, and to believe when others would give up. Anointing doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in surrender. And that's what this woman is learning. She's learning to surrender her expectations, her timeline, her plans, and her pain into the hands of a God who sees further than she can. She doesn't know it yet, but this waiting is birthing wisdom. This silence is birthing strength. This isolation is birthing identity. God is forming a woman who will not be defined by what she lacks, but by what she carries. Her private prayers are building public power. Her private pain is producing a testimony that will touch lives. When God anoints in private, it's because He knows public favor without private foundation will destroy a person. So He hides her. He keeps her away from certain people, from certain opportunities, even from certain relationships, because He knows she's still in process. He's polishing her faith, deepening her trust, and preparing her spirit for influence. What she sees as delay is really divine protection from premature exposure. God is not keeping her behind. He's keeping her safe until she's ready to carry the weight of His promise. This kind of preparation often feels lonely, but it's sacred. Heaven looks at her and says, she's the one I can trust because she doesn't need attention to be faithful. She doesn't need validation to keep believing. She doesn't need an audience to worship. She's being trained to stand before kings by first learning to kneel before God. That's what makes her different. That's what makes her chosen. When others are chasing platforms, she's chasing presence. When others seek visibility, she seeks vision. That is the mark of someone truly anointed, being willing to stay hidden until heaven says, now. And when that no comes, it will make sense. The same woman who cried alone will rise with purpose. The same woman who felt unseen will carry authority that can't be denied. People will wonder how she became so strong, how her words carry such weight, how her peace radiates power, but they won't know it was forged in nights of silence. Her oil came from obedience. Her strength came from solitude. Her confidence came from communion with God. She was anointed when no one was watching, and when God finally reveals her, the world will see what heaven already knew. She was never overlooked, only prepared. True love is not something that fixes you. It's something that finds you whole. That's why God takes time to prepare a woman before placing her in the presence of someone meant to walk beside her. The woman who sleeps alone is not being denied love. She is being shaped for it. God is not in a hurry to give her what her heart desires because he's still healing what her heart carries. He knows that without inner healing, even the right person will feel wrong. Without peace, even love can feel heavy. So, before he brings someone into her life, he brings her into a place of restoration. He deals with the wounds that no one else can see, the disappointments, the heartbreaks, the betrayals, the doubts, and he replaces them with strength, clarity, and self-worth. When a woman allows God to make her whole, she begins to see herself differently. She no longer defines herself by what happened to her or who left her. She begins to realize that her value was never diminished by anyone's absence. Every scar becomes proof of survival. Every failure becomes a lesson. Every tear becomes a seed that watered her growth. She stops longing for someone to complete her because she now understands that she was never half of anything. She was always whole in God's eyes. Her completeness isn't found in a relationship. It's found in her relationship with God. He fills the spaces in her heart that no human can reach. That kind of wholeness changes everything. It changes how she loves, how she prays, how she dreams. It shifts her focus from seeking someone who will make her feel safe to becoming someone who already carries peace within. She starts walking differently, speaking differently, believing differently. Her confidence no longer comes from who notices her, but from who made her. She no longer chases what she's not ready for. She prepares for what's meant for her. This transformation is not loud. It's quiet, steady, and sacred. And in that stillness, God does his best work. When God finally brings the right person, it won't be someone who rescues her. It'll be someone who recognizes her. He won't complete her. He'll complement her. He won't drain her. He'll draw out the best in her. And she'll know it's from God because the love will not disrupt her peace. It will align with it. That's the beauty of divine preparation. God ensures that when love comes, it fits. He aligns hearts that have been healed, minds that are clear, and spirits that are mature. He doesn't want to give her someone to fix her pain. He wants to give her someone who joins her purpose. That's why this season of solitude matters so much. Every moment she spends learning, growing, healing, and surrendering to God's will is preparing her for the kind of love that will last. God is not withholding, he's perfecting. He's ensuring that the love he brings her into will not be built on insecurity or desperation, but on strength and faith. Because love that comes too soon can destroy, but love that comes after healing can build empires. So the woman who sleeps alone tonight must not see herself as unloved. She must see herself as in training. She's being molded into the kind of woman who doesn't just attract love, but sustains it. The kind of woman who brings peace into her home, not pain. The kind of woman who uplifts, not depends. She's becoming a reflection of divine completeness, a vessel of grace, and a testimony of what happens when God is allowed to write the story. Her waiting is not empty. It's evidence that God is preparing something that will be worth every lonely night, every prayer, and every moment of becoming whole. The story of a woman who sleeps alone is not one of loneliness. It is a story of revelation. It is not about what she lacks, but about what she's learning to see. God uses her solitude to open her spiritual eyes to truths she could never recognize while distracted by the noise of life. Every quiet night, every unanswered question, every moment she feels unseen, those are divine invitations to discover who she truly is and who God is to her. The world might see her singleness as emptiness, but heaven sees it as awakening. She is being taught to look beyond the temporary to the eternal, beyond the visible to the invisible. She's learning that being alone doesn't mean being abandoned. It means being awakened to her divine identity. This woman is walking through a sacred process. When she first found herself alone, she may have felt forgotten. She may have looked around and thought that others were ahead while she was left behind. But as she sits in the stillness, she begins to notice something changing. She starts to hear God more clearly. She starts to feel his presence more deeply. The very silence that once hurt her now heals her. The quiet that once felt empty now feels full. This is revelation. When God turns what once felt like loss into a lesson, what once felt like delay into destiny. Through this season, she learns that God was never denying her anything. He was defining her through everything. She begins to see that every disappointment was direction. Every closed door was protection. Every unanswered prayer was redirection. Suddenly, she realizes that the story she thought was about waiting for love is really about walking with God. The revelation is not that she's without something, but that she already has everything. God is revealing to her that her value, peace, and identity have never depended on another person. They've always been rooted in him. This revelation gives her power. It changes her perspective on life, love, and purpose. She no longer lives as a woman waiting to be chosen. She lives as one already chosen by God. She no longer measures her worth by worldly standards. She measures it by divine truth, and that shift transforms her presence. People begin to notice a quiet confidence, a glow that can't be explained, a peace that can't be shaken. What they see is not pride, it's revelation. It's the strength of a woman who has found herself in God and refuses to lose that identity for anyone or anything. When God reveals himself to her, he also reveals her to herself. She begins to dream again, to build again, to speak with faith again. She realizes her story is not about survival. It's about transformation. The nights of solitude have produced wisdom. The tears have birthed strength. The silence has birthed discernment. And when God finally unfolds the next chapter of her life, she will enter it not as a woman searching for meaning, but as one walking in purpose. The world might call her single, but heaven calls her seen. The world might think she sleeps alone, but heaven knows she's surrounded by divine love. Her story is no longer about what she's waiting for. It's about what she's becoming. She is the revelation of God's faithfulness, the evidence that solitude can be sacred, and the living proof that the woman who once slept alone was never alone at all. God was there shaping her, teaching her, and preparing her to shine with a purpose far greater than she ever imagined.